On my quest to find America's newest and brightest entrepreneurs, I have eaten delicious vegan chocolate, watched compelling football played without pads or vicious collisions, sampled healthy juices both in my kitchen and at a sleek wellness store. Today's guest needs no introduction.
Hi, everyone.
Award-winning journalist Katie Couric has worked for the biggest names in the business, media giants who have surprisingly struggled in a crowded internet landscape.
Everyone's a commentator espousing a particular point of view. That's part of the problem.
Katie's new namesake media company is trying to rise above the din by lending her reassuring voice and platform to the day's headlines and underrepresented human interest stories. Let's check in with Katie and see where her new business is and where it is headed. Thank you for coming on, Loretta, as we embark on this journey.
I love Loretta. She's so spacious.
Thank you. Katie, where do you want to go today?
Well, Brian, I want to go to New Haven to the Yale Cancer Center to meet with the people who are curing cancer. You can't get much better than that, right?
It is perfect. Well, we are on our way to New Haven. We're leaving the confines of the Upper East Side and headed to New Haven. That being said, we have a long drive, so I'm going to take a stab at attempting to introduce you. She hails from suburban, not really rural Virginia.
No, I don't think you'd call Arlington rural.
No.
it's right across the bridge from Washington, D.C.
Exactly. And, I would say it's been sort of a fascinating journey to really the upper echelons of media, broadly speaking. And you've obviously been an inspiration for lots of people. You've interviewed, some of the most famous people in the world, in entertainment, in politics. You've actually likely changed the course of politics in certain circumstances, as we all know.
You betcha.
And the reality is, you have been called, and maybe it's not particularly woke these days, but sort of America's sweetheart. I think sweetheart is actually an interesting.
Yeah, it's so gendered, isn't it?
It's so gendered, but it's so authentic. It's so. What comes through to me is a voice that is part mother, part sister, part best friend, and it's truly unique. While anyone hears your voice, they recognize it.
I've been around so long, Brian, I think most people
it
know who I am a little bit, and they probably are pretty opinionated about me too.
Fair.
I just want to say that America's sweetheart thing is at once complimentary and slightly diminishing, isn't it? It's sort of like the sweetheart of Sigma Chi or whatever. I think it does sort of place someone in a innocuous kind of supportive role.
Interesting.
That maybe is counter to someone being an authority figure. Is America's sweetheart somehow, could America's sweetheart be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company? I don't think those are men ever called America's sweetheart. And these are very specific terms that I think reinforce gender stereotypes that actually are due to be reevaluated. So with that.
It's critical.
Interesting though, right?
Yeah, it's beyond interesting. What attracted you to journalism?
My dad was a print journalist. I think I'm a pretty good writer. I got a lot of his writing ability. He always encouraged me to write. I also am a sort of insatiably curious person, empathetic and interested in people. And I worked at radio stations in Washington during the summers while I was at UVA. I wrote for the Cavalier Daily, the UVA newspaper. I really just enjoyed the process of looking for stories, learning about issues or people, and then translating it to the written word and for people to share.
Hello.
And you go like this.
Yeah.
I used to do that when I was on road
course.
trips with my parents. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Go like
Of
that,
course.
and then they honk their horns.
I want to talk about Katie Couric Media, your latest venture. What void is it filling, if one?
There's always a place for quality storytelling, and there's always a place for the thoughtful exploration of issues that matter or that are confusing to people or giving better perspective on.
There's evidence that seems to show trans brains are in fact different.
And I use he, him, his.
I use they, them, their. I am plural.
This is not just one individual, but a whole group of kids.
I try not to be a commentator. I think that's part of the problem, that everyone's a commentator, everyone's an op-ed writer, everyone is what used to be a columnist and espousing a particular point of view. What I'm trying to do is take the relationship with people, actually, that I've established over many years to point my lens on things that I think either aren't being covered enough or that just happen to matter to me. I'm working with brands to tell stories that matter to the brands and to me. People want to feel proud of the company they're working for. And so I saw an opportunity as the landscape was changing and the advertising industry was starting to be strained, to say the least.
Yep.
And the media landscape was shifting, fragmenting, that there was an opportunity to join forces with companies that cared about things and create storytelling that would reflect their values and mine.
Okay, so and the outlets for such storytelling currently?
We're digital first because we're really doing things primarily for people's phones, but I'm also developing documentaries. I'm also optioning some original material for scripted shows. I'm kind of doing a lot of different things.
Obviously, there's your morning wake-up call.
Yeah, I do a newsletter because I don't know about you, but I was just feeling overwhelmed by the amount of content that was coming at me. And I thought I could help possibly curate it for an audience that doesn't want to live, breathe, sleep news
Yeah.
like I tend to do, but they want to stay informed. They're interested in a lot of things like I am. They may not have seen something, and you know, I can't give them everything, but it gives them a kind of daily dose of here's what's happening in an accessible, sort of understandable way, and from a voice that they feel like I'm not going to be giving them a lot of misinformation.
Yeah. I think you just nailed your business plan
Yeah.
of providing information. You're not Fox, you're not MSNBC, so people can make up their own judgments.
You know, at the same time, you know, I think there are a few topics that I feel like I have a point of view on, and whether it's reproductive rights, doing something to reduce gun violence, you know, those are things that I really, you know, I respect other people's points of view or try to.
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
you
It's hard to
disagree.
do it. Yeah,
No,
but
no,
I
no.
do disagree.
It is, I highly recommend the wake up call. It's, I read it every morning.
Thanks.
It's your voice. It's very much, I can see you reading it today.
Oh, well, that's good.
Maybe
that's
you
good.
should read it.
I should. I thought about doing it on Alexa,
Yeah.
you know, but
It's too-
you know,
it's a lot of
we're
effort.
living in such a hyper-partisan world. You know, as a friend of mine says, people are getting affirmation, not information. So how can we, you know, will it be ever thus? Perhaps, because I think Donald Trump is the symptom of a problem. He's not the problem.
What is the problem? If you had to, you know, diagnose the problem.
It's a multifaceted
Yeah.
and multi-dimensional answer. I think there's been a confluence of things that have come together that have created this massive polarization. A lot of it is rural versus urban, sort of the disintegration of community. I think it is income inequality and class resentment. I think it's the high price of education, and I think it's the transition from an industrial economy to a technological economy. I think it's social media. I think it's regular media.
This is a long list.
Well, I think all these things have actually
confluence.
come together
Yeah.
to create this massive polarization.
Back to Katie Couric Media. What resources do you need for that venture to be successful that you don't currently have?
Well, we're really staffing up. I think next month we're going to be like 19 people, which is a real thing, you know?
Yeah.
I'd love to make this more of a female collective of like-minded people who also care about issues and who I can help elevate their voices, produce content that reflects their sensibilities and values and what they care about. You know, I just did an interview with Alice Marie Johnson, who had served 21 years for a first-time drug offense. I interviewed her, this is so crazy, in my office with Julia Lewis, my social media producer. She shot it on an iPhone and edited it, and we put it out on Instagram. And something that I thought was important, that is what I love to do, talk to people. It may not be the audience of a network news show, but for people who care about the same things I care about, I'm sort of a conduit, and that's really why I was attracted to journalism. How can I take my experiences, shine a light on things that we should know about or people we should meet, and share them?
There are so many incredible stories that need to be told. Without the platform of network news, how do you rise above the din and make a larger impact? What's your strategy?
Well, you know, I think with my social media channels, I have about 3 million followers, and some platforms work better than others. But if I can join forces, like right now, People.com is running these profiles of women that I did. It's called Getting There, that Procter & Gamble wanted to do because it just shows sort of women's career paths to help inspire other women. So that's a big audience for those.
Yeah, that's an incredible series.
This is the good part of an increasingly democratic ecosystem that social media can provide people with, right? It's a lot of stuff coming at you, but look at all the creators who have outlets with just a handful of gatekeepers. Like, I mean, here you are doing this, Brian. I mean, it's wonderful. And the creativity you're seeing from all kinds of places. And it's, in some ways, really has evened the playing field for different voices and previously, you know, people who didn't have access to tell their stories. I think that's just an incredible thing.
Is there a downside to it?
Oh, of course. I mean, social media has a lot of really negative impacts, but I think the quality shows and quality content, I think the biggest problem is, like, how do you keep the pace up? I'm relaunching my podcast in the fall, and I'm like, there's so many podcasts out there. A, how do you discover them, and how do they actually get an audience? You know, we live in this attention economy where everybody's vying for our attention, and you know, you can only give it to so many things, and you get to really go to the stuff you're interested in.
What are your daily increments, and talk to me about sort of a typical day?
I think what's unusual about me is I think I'm allergic to routine.
But you don't like a routine.
I don't.
And you feel like you can get through your day and all the things that you want to accomplish without routinization.
I do.
That's amazing.
I mean, I also think that's one of the reasons I was attracted to journalism. You know, when you're in journalism or television news, no day is exactly the same. So every day you're exposed to different stories, different experiences, but I like an element of surprise or spontaneity.
The common thread in Katie Couric Media is women, or would you broaden it to voices that are, you know, underrepresented?
I think right now it's women who may have an interesting voice, but no outlets to really, I'd like to amplify some of those interesting voices.
What was it like working at Apple?
Oh man, it was really scary and really exciting too.
Rosemont St. John.
Ladies and gents, I'm so excited to show you the all-new Apple Music.
It is primarily women because I still think women are underrepresented in media.
Given the lack of women in leadership positions, what's the best route to changing that rapidly?
It all is about leadership that lives its values, right? That walks the walk, that says we want more diversity and we're going to make a good faith effort to bring a lot of different voices to the table. We're going to value those voices.
What is your advice for women who want to get there?
To work with other women who want to get there. Honestly, the success and their brand is within yourself. It is not sitting outside somewhere. No one has drawn it up already.
Think about what you used to do when you're 8 or 10, and that's what you probably love to do, and make a career out of it. And the rest will just happen.
Something that's very important is you've used your platform, your celebrity, for good, and have brought light to lots of stories, including cancer is one that obviously is very close to your heart and obviously relevant for where we're traveling.
We're going to the Yale Cancer Center. I'm going to meet Charlie Fuchs, who is one of the preeminent colon cancer experts in the country, if not the world. Charlie is part of Stand Up to Cancer. He's part of our colon cancer dream team. Colon cancer is the second leading cancer death, men and women combined. And particularly important to me because my husband Jay died of colon cancer when he was 42 years old. And whether it meant starting Stand Up to Cancer, which believes in collaboration over competition.
It's almost impossible to find someone whose life hasn't been forever changed by cancer. I know mine was.
100% of your donation received goes directly to cancer research programs.
Or getting a colonoscopy on national television to destigmatize and demystify the procedure. Cancer advocacy work has been such a meaningful part of my life.
You know, since Jay's passing, what's evolved in terms of treatments, therapies, or success rates?
You know, the mortality rate has decreased for people over 50. More people are getting screened. There was a 20% uptick in colon cancer screenings after I did the procedure on air, which was great. It was called the Couric effect by the University of Michigan, and I was like, you're welcome, everyone. What's been a disturbing development is there are many more young people being diagnosed with the disease under 50, so much so the American Cancer Society lowered the baseline screening age to 45. And they're really trying to figure out why. People come up to me and say, I got screened for colon cancer because of you, and if I hadn't, I wouldn't be here. I mean, that's a pretty exciting thing to hear.
That's got to be up there in terms of the most gratifying.
I am so proud of the work I've done with cancer.
As you should be. Well, I think we're at our destination.
We're here, finally.
Can you believe it? I don't.
Nice job, Brian. Thank you. It was really fun talking to you. I feel like there's so much we could discuss,
I know. Well,
but
we're not
I don't know
talking.
if anybody would be interested other than us.
We're neighbors. We could do it at Butterfield on the bench.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome,
This is really incredible.
I had fractured my skull and I had a very swollen brain. And my husband said there's some research being done with head injuries and they're trying an extract from cannabis. At that point, I was like, I'll try anything.
This is our CBD tea. It gets rid of all the noise. It allows the brain to focus.
I think I need more.